In this episode, I have a relatively rare Carver SD-A490T. This is a vacuum tube buffered CD player. Yeah, no, tubes. Big selling feature just to jack the price way up. I don't even think this thing sounds all that great, but I'll let you guys determine that. But anyway, this one here has a problem. It won't open, and we're going to fix it. Today I have a piece of Prestige audio equipment. This is our vacuum tube buffered compact disc player. And the complaint on this one is the disc tray is not open. So it's going to be a belt that's shot on this one. So let's get started. Now there's nothing really special about this CD player other than the fact that it uses two vacuum tubes in the analog audio circuits. So if you use the digital audio out, these aren't even necessary. It just uses two triode type tubes. These are 6BJ8 tubes that are used just to buffer the sound. Does exactly the same thing as my Luxman LV103. It uses two tubes to buffer the sound before it gets to the outputs. And that's just to give the sound a smooth sound. You can get the same sound, incidentally, with one of those basic cheap little $100 tube buffers that you loop between your tape out and your tape in, or between your main out and your amp in. Get exactly the same sound with one of those buffers. What this does, it creates even order harmonics to smooth out the sound and make it sound more analog. Now, even though this does operate on high voltage, the voltage that these ones are operating are not that high. The capacitors in here, the Rubicon, 470 microfarad 100 volt, 470 microfarad 50 volt, and it looks like the highest voltage capacitors are 100 volts. So the voltage to this is to the tube circuit is obviously going to be less than 100 volts. And people think that vacuum tubes require a very high voltage to operate. That's actually not true. They'll operate on relatively, well, mid voltages. They'll run, 70, 80 volts will run just fine. A lot of these vacuum tube buffers only run at 80 or 90 or 100 volts. I think my Luxman, the caps are rated at 160 because it's running around 140 is the operating voltage, but they don't need to operate that high a voltage. They're quite happy to work in the 60, 70, 80 volt range. It's just the output tubes. When you're dealing with a full vacuum tube amp, the output tubes will typically be running at 350, 400, 475 volts. And that's because with the output tube, the higher the voltage, the more output you can get. Because your current is limited as to how much current you can draw between the anode and the cathode. Your current is limited to a few milliwatts, or a few milliamps I should say, but it's the voltage that counts. So you have a higher swing voltage and you can generate a higher output current through the output transformer. But for these lower voltage tubes are going to work just fine, and running the plate at a lower voltage is going to extend the life of the tube substantially. Anyway, that's not why this was brought in. This was brought in because of a problem with the CD assembly. So we have to change a belt on this one. So let me just plug it in and we'll see what it's doing. So turn on the power, and that should heat up the tubes. Oh, got to turn on the bench power first. Try that again. Turn on the power, and we should see the vacuum tubes come to life and start warming up. There we go. Now we have power, and there's a little counter on the front that counts down and tells you how long you have to wait before you're going to be able to play anything. This is to allow the tubes back here to warm up. I don't know if we're going to see them or not with all the light that's in here. Oh yeah, I can see them. If you look down here, you can see the tube starting to warm up. So with this countdown, it won't do anything until it is ready. There we go. Now, aha! Belt is slipping. And the belt that is slipping is this one right there. This should be pretty easy to change this one. I don't even think I'm going to have to take this thing apart. I could get real lucky and be able to change this thing in 5 minutes. I just so happen that I have the correct belt to replace on this unit. To get this one out should be relatively simple. Just loop the old belt off the pulley and I should be able to just take this one out without too much trouble and switch it for a new one. Yeah, there should be nothing that's trapping that belt. It should come out, no problem. How come it's always the ones that seem like they're going to be so easy that you spend more time fiddle-farting around trying to get belts fished in place? You know, sometimes I think it would have been faster to pull the mechanism out, take the drawer out, and then just change the belt. But, you know, try to save time and try to save disassembly, and it ends up taking a lot longer to do than you would think. There, the old one's out. Now, considering I had so much fun getting that old belt out, what do you bet that the new one's going to be just as much of a headache to put in? I'm going to say that the odds of it being just as big a pitta as the getting the other one out is going to be just as big a pain in the butt. And it looks so simple, but it can be done, and that's what this video is all about, is to show you guys how to do it without taking this whole thing apart. Because you really don't want to start tearing mechanisms out if you don't have to. When you start removing mechanisms and start unplugging the laser and stuff to get at mechanisms, you run the risk that you're going to damage something. You know, static electricity can damage lasers very easy, so you want to try and keep them connected. Because as soon as you disconnect those wires, you got to put your short on to begin with to prevent any electrostatic discharge on the laser diode. So you got to put the jumper in if you're going to start disconnecting stuff. So, you know, if you can do it this way, it's always preferred to do it without having to disassemble, because, you know, there's little chance of causing any damage if you can slip the belt over. Now, in some cases you can't. Some cases there's teeth of the gear and stuff in there. You've got to actually take the tray out. But in this case, there's nothing there. It's just a tight fit. And I'm going to end up getting some grease on the new belt, which I'm going to have to wash off first with some isopropanol. But other than that, as I say, it was kind of a pain because it's the clearance in there is very, very, very tight. But it is doable, as you can see. I just got to get the belt looped over and pulled over top of that, over top of the shaft, the pin. But there is some clearance between the tray and that pin. It's not that it goes all the way through, but the clearance is about 1 millimeter, and the belt is a little bit thicker than that. So I kind of got to compress the belt to get it over top of that pulley. There, I think I got it now. I got the belt over top. And now I just got to fish it around the back side of the pulley and then get it onto the motor. And then we'll be able to hear how this thing sounds. And I'll let you guys compare the sound, because, as I say, in the opening, I wasn't overly impressed with the high end. So we're going to listen to a track, and I'm going to compare it to one of my own CD players. And we'll even compare it to the actual track itself, just so you guys can hear it. But it sounded good, but I'm just not overly impressed with the sound of a unit that was as expensive as this was, because this was not an inexpensive CD player. Well, nothing that has the Carver name on it is particularly inexpensive. It's you buy something under that brand, and it's like buying the Luxman stuff and the old Quad and the old Marantz and stuff, all the old high end stuff, Carry Audio, all those ones. They have a price that's up in the stratosphere, and you would expect for what they charge that you're getting exceptional sound. But I say I wasn't. It sounded good, but it did not blow me away. And we'll let you guys hear just through the speakers how it sounds. Easier said than done. And it looks like a real simple job, but this is turning into a bit of a nightmare to get this thing over top. I've got the belt in position. I just got to get it over top of the back of the pulley now. Maybe if I can thread it around this way. Get it onto here and pull the tray out and walk it back on. That light comes in very, very handy, even when it's in the way of the camera here. It really helps me see what I'm trying to accomplish and free up my hands. And it is a very intense little LED that I'm using. It's just a basic LED that I took the diffuser off so that I can get a nice direct light where I need it. So I've got the belt in place now. Now it's just a matter of putting it over top of the motor pulley and cleaning it up, and that should do it. I've got the pulley all the way around, or I've got the belt all the way around the pulley now. I just have to get it over top of the motor and then clean off the grease that's gotten on it, because it's getting a bit of grease on it. I've got it on there. By George, I think it's on. Yes, it is. Okay. Let's just swab down that belt a bit. Okay, new belt is loaded. Let's see if it opens. There we go. And now, let's see how this thing sounds. Variable output. It's got a variable output control, which you can see. It's got EQ built in as well. Put the EQ on and off. direct track access. The opening hi-hat on there sounds kind of dull. I know this music very well, so I know how it sounds. I don't have any EQ or anything on here now. This is... I don't know. It has a... I don't know. I'm gonna have to listen to my other CD player just to satisfy my own curiosity. I'm just gonna use my little NAD 5320. I'm gonna play that same track number 7. I'll put them both on because I think this is a little brighter sound.
Well, it certainly has a higher end, a higher top end. Let's listen to the original track and see how it sounds. Now we'll go back to the Carver, and remember, it's just being recorded by the microphone on the camera, so it's obviously not going to sound as good as the direct recording. But I just want to listen to the two because the two do have a distinctly different sound.
The opening cymbal just, I don't know, to my ears, it doesn't sound like, it just doesn't sound, it sounds good, but it just seems like the high end is not quite as crisp as it is on that NAD that I was just played it on. Maybe it's just my hearing, but I mean, this sounds good. It sounds smooth, that's for sure. Definitely sounds smooth. Just seemed the high end didn't seem to be as prominent as the other one. What's this thing using for a DA converter on this thing? Let's take a close look at the chipset. I was going to look up and see what the D to A converter is on this one, but it's not this chip here. This big one here, this Yamaha chip. It's the digital. That's the digital transport. So that transports the data stream. It's going to be this one over here, IC306. There's crystal down here beside it, so for the clock. And these other ones are op amps over here. These are op amps. So this is going to be the DA converter chip here. Unfortunately, I can't see what it is because of the construction of this unit. It's not one with a removable base. So to get at that chip just to see the number means pulling the board out, and that is not going to happen. It would be curious to know which one it had. I guess I could look it up and see which DA converter this one has. But it does sound good, that's for sure. So say the top end doesn't seem quite as bright as my NAD, and I'll play a reference track that I played before as well. But it's playing CDR fine. It was brought in for the door not opening, the disc tray not opening, and that problem is solved. Therefore, this unit is fixed. So that's how you go about changing the belt on one of these Carvers without taking the mechanism out and taking it apart. It is a little bit of work to work that belt in, because you got to work it in over top of, well, there's nothing really you got to go over. You got to go over top of the pulley itself. It's a tight fit, but there's no pin that goes all the way through. It's just a matter of working it over top of the mounting post, which has a cut washer on top of it for this pulley. So it's just a matter of working it over top of that post with a dental pick. And other than that, pretty straightforward. I think anybody can probably handle a belt change on one of these units. And that's going to do it for this one. So thanks for watching, and we will catch you in the next one real soon. Bye for now.